My name is Robert Bankston, KE4AL. I'm the president of AMSAT. For those that are not familiar with who AMSAT is, we are the Radio Amateur Satellite Corporation, formed in 1969 as a follow-up to Project Oscar, which launched the first amateur satellites into space shortly after, what was it? I forget the year. I'm not that old, I think. Anyway, so we have, since that time, since 1969, starting with Oscar 5, we've launched a lot of satellites. Not only just ourselves, but also the other sister amateur AMSAT organizations around the world. So as I said, we've been doing this for now 55 years. So basically February 27th, 2024 was our 55th year as an organization. And since then, I think right now they're up to at least 117 orbital satellites carrying amateur radio. I bet you there's more than that. Unfortunately, they're not all working right now. Matter of fact, most of them aren't. Most have entered back into Earth's through the atmosphere. But this year is notable in that on November 14, 1974, the launch of AO7. So AO7 was AMSAT's third satellite. And guess what? That's 50 years ago this year, and it's still working. So we are, it's a proud accomplishment. It was built by for Hams. So we are proud that it's now that it's continuing to operate. There was a little bit of area of or a time when it stopped working as the batteries failed, and then enough radiation and corrosion, and they sorted out, and now we're back in operation when it's exposed to sun. But that is, let's see, the longest running amateur satellite, the longest running commercial communication satellite, or including commercial satellites, and I think it's the longest operating satellite, period. And that was built by Hams. So hats off to them. So let's talk about the future. So AMSAT's mission is we're committed to continued development of experimental satellites. We definitely want to go, right now most of our stuff is on what we call low Earth orbit, which means, you know, the higher up it is, the bigger that cone, communication cone, our footprint is. So right now we're stuck in low Earth orbit. We've got to get back up there to those higher altitudes. IO-117, which is a green cube satellite launched by a university in Italy. They have a packet digipeater up there, and it is, I think it has an 1.5 hour long pass versus a LEO satellite, which has a 10-minute pass length. So that's been a godsend where people can make transcontinental communications on a single pass. So you start over in Eastern Europe and Russia, and you finish at the end of the pass in Asia and Western Russia. So you can pretty much work DXCC after a few passes, as long as somebody's on. In addition, so not only that big innovation and experimental satellites, we want to make sure that we provide a gateway for, be it new hams, new amateur satellite operators, as well as, you know, the not so new hams that just want to go out there and give a quick chat and chase a softball-sized satellite going across the sky at 17,000 miles an hour. So right now, the top paragraph is focusing on, and as Jerry will explain, our Golf T program, Golf T and Golf 1, collectively the Golf program. And then the bottom paragraph about the sustainability is we've got, you know, originally we had the Fox 1 series of CubeSats. There was a total of 5 of them, Fox 1A through Fox 1E. Now we have what we call a Fox Plus, which will serve as an experimental platform. So it'll have a base configuration of a in-house control unit, electrical power system, an amateur radio payload, be it linear or FM satellite transponder in UHF and VHF. And then we'll be using the rest of that satellite to host our experimental payloads. So as an example, we have, as will be explained later, a PACSAT module, so packet radio. We could easily slip that in there. Anything else that we want to test, and still, instead of waiting until the main program like Golf launches, we can take one of those components. As soon as it's ready to fly, we can insert it in a Fox Plus and launch it for about $30,000. So when we started to launch a 1U CubeSat was about 120. Now it's dropped down to 30. So that's a great deal. The only thing not affected by inflation. So right now, Golf is the last mission that or the last program that we have in development, but it's time now to start looking toward the future. So where do we want to go? What do we want to do when we get there? Those are the questions we need to start asking now. So I've already discussed this in my article that it comes out in every other amateur AMSAT journal, but we need to start having some further discussions, form working groups, brainstorm to say, what do we want amateur radio to be at the next step? Obviously, higher orbits. So I'm thinking at least HEO. And for those that ask about GEO, I'm sorry, we can't plan for that. We can only hope. But we want to be ready in case that opportunity arises. And then once we figure out where we want to go and what we want to do when we get there, then we need to figure out how do we make it happen. Funding, you let us worry about that. We'll find the money if we don't have it already. But we want to know, how do you want to operate as an operator, and what new innovation, what can we do to help advance amateur radio and amateur radio in space? Okay, this is my promises kept. So our motto when I first joined AMSAT was keeping amateur radio in space. Well, we haven't launched since Fox 1E, and we should be launching in the next few years the Golf stuff. So right now we've got our own satellites. We've got AO7, which thank God has been up there for 50 plus years and still working. But we've got 91 that for most days, if it feels like it, it works great. But we need to continue that presence in a sustainable fashion. So hopefully Fox Plus will do that for us, and we'll keep our promise to you to keep amateur radio in space. Another thing is, some of our greatest accomplishments, starting with AO6 and AO7 all the way through AO40, was done when we worked together around the world. So when we launch a satellite, it's not just for the U.S. It's not just positioned parked over the U.S. and only for U.S. operators. It flies around the world. So to me, collectively, around the world, we should be working together to come up with the solution. So over the past couple of years, we've been working on establishing the policies and the procedures that will allow us to return to an international collaboration. So we're going to be working with our other AMSAT organizations, or it could be a university over in another country, whatever it takes. But I think together we can do a lot better.